Meet Ray, a young white mage with striking white hair, currently fighting for his life in the depths of a dungeon. Panting and covered in blood, he collapses to his knees, his forehead gashed and a blood-stained spear lying nearby. A deep, agonizing wound cuts right through his stomach, yet even in this state, his only thought is survival. He's desperate to heal himself, driven by a heartbreaking need to prove his worth to a team that views him as nothing more than an expendable tool. With his life on the line, he forces out a single command: heal. If he doesn't close this wound now, it's all over. This is Yggdrasil's Labyrinth, an SSS-Rank dungeon and one of the 7 hardest labyrinths in the world. It's a place of unexplored dangers and hidden treasures that few dare to enter. Meet Gunkinodonwa, an A-rank party that has just earned the right to challenge this nightmare. Each member is top tier, a group of geniuses destined for greatness. First is the Witch L, a black mage said to carry the blood of ancient witches. Her magic is as cold and sharp as her expression. Next, the sword Saintess Hymenai, a master of dual swords. She enhances her blades with lightning and wind to shred anything in her path. To her, most enemies are just small fries. Then there's Suglinst, the greatsword warrior, a mountain of muscle acting as the team's defender. He thrives on the raw sensation of cutting through flesh. And leading them all is the genius Loki Vidrador. Combat power, leadership, magic, he excels in everything. He is the golden boy, the perfect hero. And then there's Ray, the team's healer, a white mage who always looks a bit out of place among these powerhouses. When Hymenai takes a minor scratch on her leg, Suglinst immediately calls for Ray. Even for something so small, they expect him to be ready at a moment's notice. Ray casts his magic, but the effort leaves him trembling and gasping for breath. You see, Ray has a fatal problem that no other white mage shares. His exhaustion draws immediate scorn. Hymenai looks at him with pure disgust, warning him not to fall on her. To her, he's nothing but a burden on her worst day. But Loki Vidrador is different. He kneels down, offering Ray a fatigue recovery medicine with a kind, concerned look. "Are you okay, Ray?" he asks. Ray drinks it, feeling a wave of guilt. He hates making his perfect leader use precious items on someone as weak as him. In the background, the others don't hide their contempt. To them, Ray's constant need for help makes him an unbearable weight the team has to carry. Loki just tells him to ignore them and rest until he can move. But Ray knows the truth. His presence here is a gamble every single day. His fatal problem is simple yet devastating. Just one use of heal completely drains his magic power. One spell and he's empty. Because his mana capacity is lower than average, he can only heal one person at a time before becoming a statue. It narrows the team's strategies and puts everyone at risk. Compared to the combat gods in this party, Ray's power is pathetic. He has no physical strength to compensate for his lack of magic. He is, by all accounts, useless. And yet, Loki Vidrador invited him. The legendary hero chose a lowly slave healer to join his elite squad. To Ray, Loki is more than a leader. He's a savior. When Loki asks if he can move, Ray forces himself up. He's recovered enough to walk, driven by the need to prove he belongs by his master's side. This party is the only place Ray has ever felt he belonged. He is genuinely happy that Loki chose him, even if he doesn't understand why. The others still find him inconvenient, their patience wearing thin as they wait for the weak link to catch up. Loki rallies the team, his gaze fixed on the abyss ahead. Their path is clear: descend to the very bottom and seize the secret treasure that has eluded everyone before them. Having breezed through A-rank dungeons, the group feels invincible. But as Ray vows to keep up and do his part, he doesn't realize that their next stop, Floor 125, is where their luck finally runs out. Welcome to Floor 125, where the true horror of an SSS-Rank dungeon finally begins. The party's confidence shatters like the broken weapons littering the ground as they realize they've stepped into a nightmare. Suglinst gasps for air, his face pale with shock and sweat. These monsters aren't the A-rank fodder they've been slaughtering. They're S-rank nightmares, and they might even be stronger than that. Even Loki Vidrador, the greatest genius, looks rattled. Beside him, Hymenai is trembling, her usual arrogance replaced by pure terror. None of them expected the power gap to be this vast. To them, the difference between A-rank and S-rank is like the distance between the sky and the ground. As more monsters emerge, the grim reality sets in. It's impossible to beat them. The Witch L is sweating, her stoic mask finally cracking under the pressure. Hymenai whispers in terror, "I don't want to die here." This isn't a dungeon raid anymore. It's a desperate struggle for survival. In the suffocating silence that follows, the party stares into the abyss. Ray remains mute, his eyes fixed on the cold, fearful faces of the teammates he once trusted with his life. Extreme stress can bring out the worst in people. Ray can feel the tension radiating off Hymenai and Suglinst, and he desperately hopes they won't turn that fear into anger toward him. Suglinst grits his teeth, his eyes wide with a fear he can't hide. He wants out. He wants to go back before those monsters find them and finish what they started. But the way back is closed. They progressed too easily, too fast, and now they're trapped on a floor with no return. Hymenai asks the question they're all thinking. But how are we going to return? Loki's expression remains unreadable as he crosses his arms. "I guess we have to use that," he mutters. There's a certain method, a final escape route they've been holding in reserve for the worst-case scenario. The teleport stone. Hope flares up in Ray's eyes at the mention of the artifact. The others look just as relieved. This is their ticket out of this hellhole and back to safety. The teleport stone is a legendary magic item that can send a user to any location instantly. But there's a catch. Its magic is one-time use only. Once it's used, the stone becomes worthless. Loki opens a small box, revealing a set of glowing crystals. These are the precious treasures they found on the lowest floor of an A-rank dungeon. To most, these are worth a fortune, but here, they're life itself. Loki weighs their value. Each stone is worth thousands of gold coins. He claims life is more precious than money and says they have 5 stones, enough for all of them. But his next thought is chilling. It's about time to cut the dead weight. As Loki prepares to move, Ray watches his back, feeling a surge of admiration. He thinks Loki is trying to push as far as possible before using the stones to save every single one of them. Loki Vidrador truly is an amazing person, Ray thinks. To stay so calm and heroic in the face of death, he's a leader worth dying for, a genius who cares for his team. Or so he thinks. But then the world stops. Loki turns, his face shadowed and eyes cold as ice. "You are to be banished from my party," he declares. Ray can only utter a stunned, breathless. The words hit Ray like a physical blow. He falls to his knees, staring up at the leader he worshipped. Banished? Now? Here? In the middle of an SSS-Rank dungeon where he can't survive for a minute alone? Ray stammers, asking why, unable to believe his ears. But Loki's eyes are devoid of any kindness now. "Did you not hear what I said?" he repeats, his voice cutting through Ray like a blade. Suddenly, a sharp impact strikes Ray, knocking him to the ground. The betrayal is sudden and violent, leaving him gasping and confused as his world falls apart around him. Suglin stands over him, his face twisted in a cruel, mocking sneer. "Do you really need us to spell out for you?" he asks, the mask of the reliable teammate finally slipping off to reveal the monster beneath. Clutching his head in agony, Ray listens as Suglin spits out his true feelings. "You are so slow-witted, it annoys me." To them, Ray was never a friend. Just an irritation they finally decided to scrape off their boots. Hymenai joins in the mockery, her voice dripping with pure venom. She accuses Ray of being a pervert, claiming he was only watching her in battle to peek under her skirt, twisting his concern into something disgusting. Ray desperately tries to defend himself, his voice trembling as he explains his actions. He wasn't peeking. He was watching their every move so he could heal them the moment they took a hit. He was just trying to be a useful member of the party, to prove he belonged. But his pleas fall on deaf ears. Loki, Suglanced, and Hymenai look down at him with nothing but cold, mocking stares, their patience finally exhausted. The warm facade of their friendship has vanished, leaving only a cruel assessment of Ray's worth to the team. Loki towers over Ray, his voice devoid of any warmth. He points out the harsh truth. A white mage who can only cast heal once is a fatal burden in an SSS-Rank dungeon. Once Ray's mana is gone, he's just dead weight that the rest of them have to carry. Ray's head hangs low, his eyes filled with tears. He knows his magic is limited, but he tries to plead his case, his voice trembling as he faces the cold, calculating eyes of his leader. Desperate to show he has value, Ray reminds them of everything else he does. He cooks, he cleans, he analyzes enemy weaknesses. He does all the chores so they can focus on fighting. He's worked himself to the bone just to be useful to the only family he has. But Loki isn't interested in a servant. He wants a powerhouse. He looks down at the boy on the ground and tells him that he clearly doesn't understand the heavy expectations placed on a party of their status. Loki gestures to the rest of the group. They are the heroes destined to defeat the demon lord and save the world. To him, every member must be elite, and Ray simply doesn't make the cut for their grand destiny. With a cruel smirk, Loki tells Ray that having a useless healer means they'll have no future. Ray is left kneeling in the dirt, clutching his arms as his sense of self-worth is systematically dismantled by the man he idolized. Confused and hurt, Ray's mind drifts back to the day he was saved. He was only 11 years old, a starving orphan in a dark cell. Why? Why did Loki choose him back then if he was always this useless? He remembers the hand reaching out to him in that cold, damp dungeon. He thought it was an act of salvation, a hero choosing a slave to give him a better life. He thought he was special, that he had some hidden potential Loki saw. He stares at Loki's smiling face, a mask of kindness that he now realizes was a lie. He truly believed there was a deep, noble reason behind his recruitment into the party, but the truth is far darker. With a shaky voice, Ray finally asked the question, "Why did you choose me then?" He just wanted a place to belong, a home to protect. Loki's only response is a chillingly cold laugh. The mask finally drops completely. Loki admits there was no deep meaning at all. He just wanted a cheap slave who happened to be a healer. To him, Ray was never a person or a teammate, just a budget-friendly tool. Loki explains that back then, he was just a poor E-rank adventurer. He couldn't afford a real white mage, so he bought the cheapest one he could find. Ray's face pales as the realization of his true worth sinks in. Loki muses to himself, his tone indifferent. Now that he's successful, he doesn't want to be weighed down by low-quality tools ever again. He looks at Ray like he's a piece of trash that finally needs to be discarded. Now that they are an A-rank party, they have their pick of any adventurer in the world. Loki tells Ray that this time, he's going to choose a proper white mage. Ray clenches his fist as his banishment becomes a terrifying, irreversible reality. The cruelty doesn't stop there. Ray realizes that Loki isn't just kicking him out, he's leaving him to die. Loki won't waste a precious teleport stone on a slave, choosing instead to dump him in the heart of the Yggdrasil labyrinth where monsters are strongest. Terrified of the monsters lurking in the shadows, Ray lunges forward, grabbing Loki's boot. "No, I'll die if you leave me behind," he screams, his voice cracking with pure, unadulterated desperation. Ray is sobbing now, begging for just one more chance to redeem himself. He promises to do better, to work harder than anyone else. But Loki just looks down at him with a sadistic, bored curiosity. Without warning, Loki draws his sword and thrusts it deep into Ray's stomach. "Heal this wound then," he says, his voice disturbingly calm as blood begins to soak Ray's white clothes. Ray gasps, his eyes wide with shock and agony. He can't believe it. The man he idolized as a hero just ran him through with a blade, treating his life as a cruel, disposable joke. Loki mocks Ray's screams, telling the boy that if he doesn't heal up now, he'll die right here. It's a twisted, sadistic game, forcing Ray to use his last drop of mana just to survive for a few more minutes. Behind them, Suglinst and Hymenai are actually laughing. They find the sight of their teammates suffering hilarious, mocking Loki for being so cruel, as if it's a great performance. Ray can barely breathe as the pain overwhelms him. With a scream of pure agony, Ray grips the hilt and pulls the sword out of his own body. Blood spurts from the gaping wound, pooling on the cold dungeon floor as he fights to stay conscious. Ray is panting heavily, his vision blurring from the pain and loss of blood. With his absolute last bit of strength, he cries out the only spell he knows, H-Heal. A soft light envelopes the wound, the magical energy desperately knitting Ray's flesh back together. Loki watches the process with a cold, bored expression, as if he's simply testing the durability of a tool before discarding it forever. The wound closes perfectly, leaving no trace of the blade's path. Loki scoffs, noting that Ray's healing speed is the only thing he's actually good for. Exhausted and drained of every drop of mana, Ray collapses to the floor, his vision blurring as he watches his family prepare to leave him for dead. Ray trembles as he tries to stand. He can't fall now, not when his life is on the line. But Suglinst and Hymenai just look on with bored, cold eyes, watching his pathetic struggle as if it's a form of entertainment. Gasping for air, Ray tries to prove his worth one last time, desperation etched into his every move. But Loki just smiles cruelly, praising his ability to move despite being drained of mana. It's not a compliment. It's a mockery of his survival instinct. The truth finally hits like a physical blow. Just kidding, Loki says, his voice devoid of any pity. They never had any intention of taking him to safety. Ray's world shatters as the people he called family reveal their true, monstrous faces. Loki looks down with pure contempt. This is the perfect chance to finally discard the burden. To them, a teleport stone is a fortune too precious to waste on a useless slave. This is goodbye, Ray. He sneers as he prepares to leave. Loki tosses the knife Ray once gave him back to his feet with a mocking gesture. Now you'll be able to survive with that, he laughs. Suglinst and Hymenai join in, relishing the thought of Ray spending the rest of his short life in this nightmare. As the teleportation circle glows, the party disappears, their cruel laughter echoing through the cavern. Ray is left alone in the freezing darkness, clutching the ground as his tears mix with the dungeon's dirt and his own blood. Why? Ray's mind is a storm of pain and betrayal. He endured years of physical abuse and mistreatment just to protect his place in the group. He thought if he just worked hard enough, he'd eventually belong. How wrong he was. But there's no time for mourning. A massive, lizard-like monster looms over him, sensing his weakness. Ray tries to move, to run, but his body is a lead weight, completely paralyzed by the total mana exhaustion. He collapses as the monster closes in, the weight of his life's tragedies finally breaking his spirit. Seriously? Why do I have to go through all this, he wonders. Fate has been nothing but a cruel, relentless master to him. In what he thinks are his dying moments, his life flashes before his eyes. His family slaughtered by monsters, the cold, heavy chains of slavery. His whole existence has been defined by nothing but pain and loss. Even when Loki bought him, the nightmare didn't end. He was just a punching bag for the stress of others, physically abused and treated like a disposable object. Just what is the meaning of my whole life? He cries out in his mind. With a final, desperate thought, Ray falls. He's pushed over the edge, tumbling into the endless abyss of the 125th floor, his broken body vanishing into the darkness below. It seems like the end of his story. He splashes into a deep pool of water at the bottom of the chasm. What a pitiful me. He thinks, his consciousness fading into a dark fog as the cold water embraces his broken body. He's ready to let go. Silence follows, deep and absolute. Then a voice. A soft, strange voice that cuts through the void. It's a sound he feels like he's heard before, somewhere in a distant dream, or perhaps a past life he's long forgotten. In the pitch-black darkness, the mysterious voice calls out again, playful, yet commanding. Ray struggles to focus his mind, his senses slowly returning as the faint light of consciousness begins to flicker once more. When his eyes finally open, a girl is standing over him. She looks like a gothic doll, with long white hair and a mysterious aura. "Oh, you're finally awake," she says with a mischievous glint in her eyes. Ray is stunned. A girl? Here, in the depths of the labyrinth? He can't help but stare, his brain struggling to process her presence. She scoffs at his confusion, her expression both cute and incredibly arrogant. She notices his intense gaze and teases him, asking if he's enchanted by her cuteness. Despite the dire situation, Ray can't help but find her bizarrely charming as a mysterious butterfly flutters around them in the cavern. Ray tries to get his bearings. "Where am I? Why are you in a dungeon?" he stammers. The girl just blushes and tells him he can praise her more if he wants, but then her tone shifts to something far more serious. Her next words are like a thunderclap. They are on the 200th floor, the lowest, unexplored floor of Yggdrasil's labyrinth. Ray's heart sinks. He has fallen further than any human has ever dared to go. The 200th floor, a place of legend no explorer has ever set foot. Ray realizes the gravity of his situation. He's deeper than the reach of any rescue, and there's no way back up to the world he once knew. But the mystery girl has more news. She tells him he shouldn't be so worried about getting out, because he has already obtained the secret treasure of Yggdrasil, the very thing everyone has been searching for. Ray is completely bewildered. Obtained? You mean the secret treasure? He doesn't remember finding anything but betrayal and a watery grave at the bottom of a chasm. She tells him he should be able to feel it now, the ancient aura of Yggdrasil itself coursing through his broken body. "You've already been cursed by the world tree," she whispers, her tone turning dark and heavy with the weight of a secret that will change his life forever. Ray's world spins as she points to his face. "That strange, rotten left eye of his? That is the mark of the curse, the undeniable proof that the boy who was discarded as trash has just become the host of a power far beyond any human understanding." Ray's heart stops as the girl's words sink in. His magic circuit, once so small and pathetic that it could only sustain a single spell, is now directly connected to the source of life itself, the Yggdrasil. The fatal flaw that led to his betrayal and abandonment is gone. In its place, he now possesses the one thing every mage in the world dreams of: unlimited magic power. The mysterious girl offers a cryptic, knowing smile, her eyes sparkling with mischief. The secret treasure of the world's most dangerous dungeon is now raised to command as he sees fit. "It's up to you how you use it," she says playfully, knowing the storm he is about to unleash. For the boy who was once a cheap slave and a disposable tool, the path to vengeance and a legendary new destiny has finally opened. Ray wakes up in a state of utter shock. Before him stands a mysterious young girl in gothic attire who introduces herself as Norn, or as some know her, the Mystery Girl. The name Norn feels strangely familiar to Ray, but he can't quite place it. The Mystery Girl watches him with an amused, knowing look, sensing his complete confusion about where he is. Sensing his hesitation, the Mystery Girl challenges him to do something simple. Cast his signature spell, Heal. Ray freezes, the trauma of his past limitations flooding back to him. He remembers how a single spell used to drain every ounce of his mana, leaving him half dead from exhaustion. But the Mystery Girl is persistent, gently patting him and urging him to just try it. Ray takes a deep breath and invokes the magic. A brilliant light envelopes him, warmer and more powerful than anything he's ever felt before. He waits for the collapse, but it never comes. Instead of feeling drained, Ray stands tall, eyes wide with disbelief. He isn't tired. In fact, he feels more energetic than ever. The usual weight on his soul has vanished. "My magic, it's not empty," he gasps. The Mystery Girl smirks, her playful fufufu echoing as she asks if he can feel the power overflowing within his body. She explains the impossible. Ray's magic circuit is now directly connected to Yggdrasil. The curse has switched his core from his own body to the world tree itself, turning him into a living conduit. The realization hits Ray like a tidal wave. As long as the world tree supplies him, he can use his magic power as many times as he wants. He has become a mage with no limits. He wonders why this is happening and what could possibly connect him to the legendary world tree. The mystery girl confirms his unlimited power but hints that there's more to the story. Desperate for answers about his cursed body, Ray prepares to follow the mystery girl. She gestures for him to come along, promising that the reason lies at a nearby spring. They arrive at a shimmering pool of water. She tells him that when he was swept away, he survived by drinking from this very spring, and that is where his transformation began. With childish glee, the mystery girl reveals that this is the world tree's tears, a secret treasure said to be capable of resurrecting even the dead. Ray can only stare in awe. This mystical water flows from the very roots of the world tree, the ancient entity that forms the foundation of this entire dungeon. Ray gazes at the source of his new life. He is standing at the lowest floor of the labyrinth, a forbidden realm where no human adventurer has ever set foot before. He reflects on the magnitude of his discovery. By some miracle, he has obtained the ultimate secret treasure of the dungeon, a source of unlimited magic power. Ray grips his hand, feeling the incredible power coursing through him. Meanwhile, the mystery girl boasts that her garden is an SSS-Rank, leaving Ray even more curious about who she truly is. The mystery girl remains cryptic about her origins, refusing to explain her presence. However, she's willing to share one crucial piece of information: their exact location in the depths. When Ray asks if she's been surviving here all alone, she beams with pride. She claims there are no other humans around and that she's far stronger than her small stature suggests. Ray finds it hard to swallow. She looks like a mere child, and this dungeon has strict age and power restrictions. He can't help but look at her with skeptical eyes. She claims she can instantly defeat S-rate monsters, but Ray thinks she's just bragging. After all, even his elite former party stood absolutely no chance against such horrors. The mystery girl shrugs off his doubt, understanding that her appearance is misleading. She shifts the focus, asking the only question that matters. Does he want to get out? Ray gazes up at the impossible height of the roots. He desperately wants to go outside, but he knows the path is guarded by S-rate monsters he isn't prepared to face. I'm not a swordsman or a combat mage. I'm just a white mage, Ray thinks, his hands trembling. Even with this newfound unlimited mana, he can't imagine how he would ever survive a gauntlet of S-rank monsters alone. But even if a miracle happens and he reaches the surface, what then? As the faces of Loki and the Sunflower Party flash through his mind, the bitter truth sinks in. He has been discarded and betrayed, leaving him with absolutely no home left to return to. Ray looks back at the blurry image of the Sunflower Party. Loki Vidrador, Hymenai, Suglinst, and the others, people he once called family. Now, he realizes he truly has nothing left. No place to return to, and no one waiting for him. Wiping away a stray tear, Ray feels the weight of his despair. Since there's nothing left for him in the world above, he begins to think that maybe he should just stay here in the darkness. He gazes out at the vast, glowing cavern of the lower dungeon. To Ray, spending the rest of his life here and dying in peace seems like the happiest life a discarded person like him could ever hope for. He grips his fist tight, the bitter realization sinking in. He is no longer the healer who saves people. Mystery Girl senses his internal struggle, her curious eyes watching him closely. With a faint, hollow smile, Ray looks at Mystery Girl. He's ready to give up his search for an exit. "Can I live here by any chance?" he asks. The question catches Mystery Girl completely off guard. You're going to live here," she exclaims, shocked that he's suddenly abandoned his desire to escape. To her, staying here for a while is one thing, but living here forever is unthinkable. Ray plunges his dagger into the ground, marking his decision. He apologizes for his sudden change of heart, and then, in a moment of practical concern, asks a very human question. "What do you eat here?" Mystery Girl explains the supernatural nature of his new home. He doesn't need food. Yggdrasil's mana supplies all the nutrition his body requires. In this state, he recovers so quickly that he is practically immortal. Ray is stunned by the word immortal. Mystery Girl clarifies that he's not invulnerable. If his head is cut off, it's game over. She reveals that his body had already healed itself long before he even cast heal earlier. To survive here, he'll need to learn a lot more. Her expression turns sharp and cold. "You are weak," she declares. She warns Ray that monsters can and will come here, and right now, he is nothing more than easy prey. Monster food. To survive, he has only one choice: get stronger. Ray realizes there's no true safe zone in this dungeon. Looking back at the betrayal he suffered, he vows to never be a burden again. He will become strong enough to protect himself and stand on his own 2 feet. Mystery Girl agrees to teach him the basics. With a newfound determination burning in his eyes, Ray sets off. "I'll get stronger," he shouts, beginning a journey that will test the very limits of his soul. 3 long years pass in the depths of the World Tree. Ray is now on floor 180, a place far more dangerous than where he started. The weak boy is gone, replaced by a survivor forged in the fires of countless deaths and resurrections. Ray's eyes track his target with lethal precision. He draws his knife, his grip steady and confident. The air around him crackles with the mana he's learned to master over the past 3 years. A massive shadow viper lunges, its jaws wide, but Ray is ready. He leaps into the air with superhuman speed, a far cry from the fragile mage who could barely stand. In a flash of light, he strikes back. The battle is a whirlwind of scales and mana. Ray channels the power of Yggdrasil through his blade, each slash releasing a burst of energy. He moves through the Viper's attacks with a cold, focused intensity. Mana explosions rock the cavern as Ray delivers strike after strike. His movements are a deadly dance. 3 years of constant combat honed into a perfect, lethal edge. The Shadow Viper is relentless, its massive body thrashing and striking out, but Ray anticipates every move. He is no longer the prey. He has become the ultimate predator of these lower floors. Ray lands atop the beast, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry," he whispers, a cold apology before delivering the killing blow to the creature that once would have ended him in a heartbeat. With a final, devastating slash, Ray severs the connection between the Shadow Viper's head and its body. A torrent of dark mana erupts as the beast is finally silenced. The massive corpse crashes to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Ray stands over his fallen foe, the reality of his growth finally sinking in. "I finally defeated it," he says, his voice a mixture of exhaustion and pride. Ray looks back with a bright, triumphant smile. "I did it, Norn!" he shouts, calling Mystery Girl by the name she gave him. The joy of his first major victory is written all over his face. Mystery Girl is visibly impressed. "You're almost like a different person, Ray," she says. She acknowledges his incredible feat, defeating the Shadow Viper, the undisputed lord of the 180th floor. Ray explains the key to his new strength. He has learned to infuse his body and blade with Yggdrasil's mana, releasing it directly into his foes to destroy them from within. The Mystery Girl nods in approval, acknowledging the incredible growth he's achieved over 3 years of relentless training. She can't help but tease him, playfully reminding him of how he used to die at the hands of even the smallest monsters. Ray winces as the memories of those brutal, early days begin to flood back, a period of his life he'd much rather forget. Ray looks back on his early days of training. Even a small, seemingly innocent monster like the Ark Rabbit was an S-rate predator that once pierced right through his chest. He realizes that without the unlimited healing of his secret treasure, his journey would have ended before it even began. He reflects on the brutal process that made him stronger. It was a relentless cycle of trial and error, made possible only by his half-immortal body. Every death was a lesson, every wound a chance to increase his accuracy and control over the overflowing magic of Yggdrasil. The Mystery Girl, whom Ray calls Norn, is genuinely stunned. She reveals that Ray can even restore a lost eye by simply switching his magic circuits and casting heal. She admits she expected it would take him a century to reach this level, but he mastered it in just 3 years. To her, Ray has become a monster in his own right. Despite her praise, Ray remains humble, attributing his success to her excellent teaching. They share a rare moment of laughter as they walk through the cavern, their bond having clearly deepened over the years of hardship. But the levity is short-lived. A haunting voice echoes in Ray's mind, "No, you're still weak." Before him, an illusion of his past, powerless self appears, a ghostly reminder of the fragility he's tried so hard to leave behind. Nora notices the sudden change in his expression. She asks if he's seeing another illusion, a dark side effect of the Yggdrasil link. Ray can only offer a troubled, "Yeah," knowing that while his body has grown strong, his past still has a firm grip on his soul. As Ray stares into the distance, he reflects on a strange phenomenon. Ever since he arrived at the bottom of the labyrinth, he's been seeing a younger version of himself appearing in his visions from time to time. Mystery Girl, also known as Norn, explains that this is a side effect of his connection with Yggdrasil. The tree of life accumulates all lives, and as it tries to pull Ray's life in, it manifests these spectral memories, especially when he's on the brink of death. She warns him to be careful not to be swallowed by the thoughts of the dead, mixed within the power he's supplied with. Ray grips his chest, acknowledging the dangerous price of his newfound strength. 3 years pass in the blink of an eye. In the depths of the dungeon, Ray undergoes a transformation through a training regime that would have killed any normal person 1,000 times over. Mystery Girl teases Ray during their spar, asking if he's starting to miss the outside world. Ray laughs it off, his movements now sharp and confident as he fends off her attacks. Ray reflects on how much he has changed. It's been 3 long years since they first met, and time seems to have accelerated under her harsh but effective tutelage. The results of his labor are undeniable. Ray now stands atop the carcass of an SSS-Rank monster, a feat his former party, Gunkin Adunwa, couldn't have even dreamed of achieving. Even after nearly dying countless times, Ray has finally become strong enough to survive in this hellish environment. But Mystery Girl isn't done with him yet, continuing to push him through relentless sparring. However, a momentary distraction leads to an embarrassing mishap. Ray finds himself blushing furiously as he accidentally gets a bit too close to Mystery Girl during the fray. She doesn't let him off easily, delivering a swift strike to snap him back to reality. In a real fight, looking away for even a second is a death sentence. Ray is left on the ground, nursing his bruised face. It's a painful reminder that despite his growth, he still has a long way to go in terms of mental discipline. Mystery Girl sighs at his naivety, disappointed that he hasn't grown as much as she thought. Ray can only offer a weak excuse, thinking that anyone would have been distracted in that situation. Later, as the chaos of training subsides, they share a quiet moment under the stars. The peace of the dungeon night is a stark contrast to the violence of their daily routine. For a brief moment, the master and student are just 2 people resting in the silence, letting the tension of the last 3 years melt away. Ray asks Mystery Girl if she's always been alone here. She explains that normal humans could never reach this far, making this deep sanctuary her solitary home for a long time. Ray thinks back to the Shadow Viper, a monster that killed him more times than he can count. He realizes just how much he's overcome to be able to stand by her side now. The conversation takes a somber turn when Mystery Girl reveals a shocking truth. She cannot leave the dungeon. Ray is stunned, realizing his companion is bound to this place. She tries to play it off, saying the quiet is comfortable, but her eyes tell a different story. If she could have left, she would have done so a long time ago. With a wistful smile, she admits that she does want to see the world outside the dungeon walls. It's a simple dream for someone so powerful. She then asks Ray what he wants to do. Is there nothing calling him back to the surface world after all this time? Ray's heart is filled with hatred and frustration when he thinks of his former party. He has no intention of rejoining the people who betrayed him, but he wonders if there's anything else left for him. Mystery Girl presses him, asking if there isn't at least one person he wishes to meet again outside this labyrinth. Suddenly, a memory resurfaces. He hears a warm, familiar voice calling his name. It's Ninamoa, the girl who was his only light during his darkest days as a slave. The realization hits him like a lightning bolt, shattering his quiet contemplation. How could he have forgotten the one person who truly mattered? His eyes widen as a long-lost memory begins to surge back to the surface. With determination burning in his eyes, Ray stands up and makes a solemn vow. He is going back to the surface for the one thing he is left to do: finding Ninamoa, the girl who shared his chains long before he ever became a mage. Meet Ninamoa, a red-haired girl with a distinct mole near her eye. Long before Ray joined the party, Gunkin Odongwa, she was his only companion and fellow slave back at the trader's mansion. They were always together, bound by the shared suffering of their bondage. Being around the same age, they found a unique solace in each other's presence amidst the cruelty of their lives. The slave traders were brutal, often hitting the children to relieve their own stress. In those dark moments, Ninamoa would always step up, acting like a protective big sister for Ray. She would physically throw herself in the way to defend him, taking the blows so that he wouldn't have to. Every time the violence ended, Ray would cry and ask if she was okay. She would always respond with the same gentle, reassuring touch, ignoring her own pain. Ninamoa once made a request: "If one day I'm in trouble, please save me, okay?" Back then, Ray was fated to be sold as a slave and felt entirely powerless to save anyone, especially her. But her unconditional affection stayed with him, touching his heart long after they were separated. That promise is the one thing he hasn't been able to fulfill during his time as an adventurer. Staring into the depths of the labyrinth, Ray's determination solidifies. He realizes that with the power he holds now, he finally has a real chance to make good on that promise. With Yggdrasil's immense magic power flowing through him, he knows he can solve whatever trouble she might be in. He finally has the power to do it. 5 months have passed since Ray began his ascent from the bottom of the labyrinth. With Mystery Girl, Lin Han Kwa Yggdrasil, who he calls Norn, as his guide, he pushes toward the surface. His goal is singular: to meet Ninamoa again. Every step upward through the icy caverns is fueled by the thought of his childhood protector. They arrive at the 125th floor, a place that feels oddly familiar to Ray. While Yggdrasil's power keeps him physically fit, the 5-month journey has left him mentally exhausted, especially knowing they aren't even halfway out. The climb has been a grueling montage of battles. Mystery Girl, Lin Han Kwa Yggdrasil, has insisted that Ray do all the fighting as part of his training, even when it results in him being covered in disgusting monster saliva. She finds his struggles amusing, watching from the sidelines with a grin while he grapples with bizarre and repulsive enemies. Ray complains about her lack of help, but Norn is firm. If she kept saving him, it wouldn't be much of a training session. She enjoys seeing him covered in monster spit a bit too much. "I could laugh at ease because you've grown strong," she says with a proud smile, catching Ray off guard and causing him to reflect on her name, Norn. The banter continues as Norn brings up a particularly embarrassing moment when Ray had to wash his saliva-soaked pants while she watched. Their light-hearted argument is interrupted when Norn spots a bag on the ground. Ray is self-conscious about his smell, but Norn is more interested in the potential loot. When she picks it up, Ray realizes with a shock that it's his own bag. Norn calls it a miracle, but Ray is preoccupied with the familiarity of their surroundings. He's back at the very spot where he fell 3 years ago. He had thought Loki took the bag along with him, but here it is. Finding it here brings back the cold memories of that fateful day on the 125th floor. Norn rummages through the bag, disappointed to find no fresh clothes or useful items. She scolds him for underestimating the labyrinth and not packing better for his initial expedition. Ray is speechless, but his attention is suddenly drawn to a looming presence. A massive shadow viper appears, the same type of monster that he encountered before his fall. The rematch is about to begin. Norn asks if he knows this monster, and Ray confirms with a grim look. They've met before, and it was nearly his end. Without hesitation, Ray charges into the rematch. He isn't the helpless white mage who once trembled before this beast. He's a warrior forged in the fires of 3 years of hellish training, finally ready to face his past. "I'm not the same person as I was before," he shouts, his voice full of resolve. With a swift, powerful movement, he launches himself toward the massive viper, his eyes locked on its back as he prepares to unleash his newfound strength. Ray leaps onto the massive beast's back, his movements precise and filled with the confidence of someone who has faced death 10,000 times. He's no longer the helpless boy who fell here. He's a hunter. He lands a strike, but is surprised to find the injury is shallow. He reflects that while the standard shadow vipers he trained against were faster, this specific monster has a much tougher defense. However, he quickly realizes that its legendary toughness is concentrated only on its shell. Griping the monster's hide, Ray takes a deep, focused breath. He channels the infinite mana of Yggdrasil into his dagger, preparing to shatter the defense of the predator that once haunted his nightmares. A massive explosion of mana and rock erupts as Ray unleashes his full power. The sheer force of the impact shakes the very foundations of the labyrinth's 125th floor. With a cold, piercing gaze and his glowing dagger in hand, Ray stands triumphant over his fallen foe. He has conquered the shadow of his past, proving to both himself and Mystery Girl, Lin Han Kwa Yggdrasil, that he is ready to face whatever lies ahead on the surface. Ray exhales as the monster at his feet is sliced in half. He looks toward Norn, a mysterious girl in a black gothic dress who has been his mentor for years, and asks how he did. Norn stares back with an unusually serious expression, her deep red eyes searching his face. Out of the blue, she tells him that once he leaves the dungeon, he must find some trustworthy friends. Ray is hesitant, but Norn gives him a cheerful thumbs up, encouraging him to do his best to build a life outside. Her tone softens as she places a hand near his chest, reminding him that no one can survive in this world entirely alone. She wants him to have people to laugh with, just in case she's no longer by his side one day. The thought of losing her startles Ray. He quickly begs her not to say such ominous things, desperate to keep the peace they've found. Seeing her concern, Ray clenches his fist and promises her that he will try his hardest to live well. A bright, genuine smile breaks across Norn's face as she praises him like a proud teacher. Ray can't help but smile back, moved by the warmth of the only person who has stayed with him in this darkness. The serious mood evaporates into playful laughter as Norn continues to tease him like he's still a little child. In his heart, Ray makes a vow. Once he finishes his business outside, he will return and introduce all his new friends to Norn. Their journey upward begins. Over the next 2 years, they fight through the dangerous layers of the dungeon together, leaving their mark on every floor. From training in the woods to camping by a warm fire, every moment they share strengthens the bond between student and master. They share countless laughs and quiet conversations, making the grueling climb feel almost like a long, peaceful stroll. Finally, after 5 long years in the depths, they stand before a blinding light, the exit to the surface. Ray gazes at the gateway, his heart racing. He's finally reached the end of his long imprisonment. Norn stops and tells him her job is done. She urges him to hurry along and be safe in the world outside, but her smile hides a deep sadness. Sensing something is wrong, Ray turns back. He realizes the truth. Norn isn't coming with him. Norn reveals that her real body died long ago. She's a magic construct made of the dungeon's mana, and she would vanish if she stepped outside. As the truth sinks in, Ray's face falls. Norn quickly scolds him, telling him not to get depressed and make her feel like she's bullying him. Her eyes soften with a hint of hidden loneliness as she asks him to be sure to visit her from time to time. Ray looks her in the eye, his gaze steady and full of resolve. He promises her that he will definitely return to this place. Norn breaks the heavy silence with a joke about him bringing back a girlfriend, earning a flustered blush from Ray as they share one last laugh. With a final look back, Ray begins to walk toward the exit, his heart full of hope and the echoes of Norn's guidance ringing in his ears. Norn smiles warmly, her parting words echoing as she reminds Ray to stay vigilant in the unfamiliar world outside. Ray steps forward into the light, reflecting on the 3 long years he spent at the bottom floor, enduring hell to survive and grow strong. 2 more years were spent climbing back to the surface. It's been 5 years since he last smelled fresh air, and the uncertainty of what has changed in the world makes him anxious. Yet, amidst the fear, there's a thrill. He is finally free from the suffocating darkness of the maze. He stands on a high cliff, gazing at a town nestled in the valley far below. The world is vast, beautiful, and completely different from the stone walls he's known for so long. A real sky, Ray murmurs, tears streaming down his face as he finally witnesses the blue horizon he thought he'd never see again. He looks back to see the temporary exit vanishing. To get back inside, he'll need to find the original entrance, marking the true end of his long journey with Norn. Stepping into the woods, Ray thanks Norn once more in his heart. He knows he needs to find a village, soon to exchange his findings for money and get some proper clothes. Suddenly, a strange, metallic scent hits him. He stops, sniffing the air with a furrowed brow, sensing something is deeply wrong nearby. His eyes widen as he discovers a scene of carnage. A fallen knight lies motionless in a pool of blood, the unmistakable smell of monsters and slaughter. Lurking nearby is Viggen, human hunter, a monstrous lizard man with cold, reptilian eyes and a single brown horn, who lives only to devour human flesh. Viggen recalls his mission, an order from one of the 4 deadly demons to take down the capital and pave the way for the demon lord's invasion. All the demons under that dark command have been gathering strength, preparing for a full-scale assault on human civilization. They have been raiding caravans relentlessly, plundering travelers and merchants as they move closer to their ultimate target. To Viggen, killing and eating humans over and over again is more than a duty. It's a way to prove that demons are superior to these weak creatures. Viggen spots another carriage approaching on the road. A twisted grin spreads across his face as he prepares for yet another gruesome hunt. To him, this isn't just a mission. It's a game of looting and feasting that he enjoys with sadistic fervor. The carnage left in his wake is absolute. Horses are slaughtered and knights are torn apart, leaving a trail of gore through the woods. One of the surviving knights gasps in horror as he recognizes the monster looming over them. A single brown horn, a giant war axe. "You are the B-rank human hunter, Viggen," the knight cries out, trembling at the demon's notoriety. Viggen chuckles, his tail twitching with pride as he realizes his reputation for cruelty has made him quite famous among his prey. He shifts his attention to the spoils, noting the high quality of the goods from the Drake Slave Company. To him, everything here is a valuable resource. With a sudden, violent strike, Viggen smashes the carriage. Liana, a honey-blonde girl in tattered clothes, screams as her world is torn apart. Liana huddles on the ground in chains, her blue eyes filled with tears of absolute despair. To Viggen, she isn't even a person, just another piece of high-quality cargo to be sorted through. Viggen towers over her with a predatory stare, savoring her terror for a moment before he turns his gaze back to the smoldering wreckage to finish his assessment of the spoils. Viggen scans the wreckage, unimpressed. He notes that the carriage only held 3 people, and 2 of them were supposedly holy knights, the kingdom's elite. One of the knights, realizing the overwhelming gap in power, tries to flee. Viggen mocks him instantly, asking if he really thinks he can just run away after everything. Desperation fills the knight's mind. He knows Viggen is a monster capable of cleaving heavy armor in a single swing. Fighting is suicide. He realizes he has 0 chance. His only hope is to survive long enough to inform the king's elite units about the threat. But Vigen's massive axe is already in motion, cutting through the air with lethal intent. "Are you sure you want to show your back to me?" Vigen roars, lunging forward with blinding speed to deliver a finishing blow to the retreating knight. The knight collapses, his life extinguished in a spray of blood. Vigen looks down at the motionless body, his boredom only growing as the last line of defense falls. To Vigen, the Holy Knights are nothing but a joke, weaklings who are only for show. He tosses his axe over his shoulder, disappointed by the total lack of a real challenge. Vigen turns his attention back to the last survivor. He decides that human men taste awful, so he'll leave the dead knights for his demon beasts to feast on instead. He looms over Liana, grabbing her face with his cold, scaled hand. His reptilian eyes narrow as he tells her she looks far more delicious than the warriors he just slaughtered. Vigen mocks her pretty face and the terror in her eyes, declaring that he'll keep her as a pet before finally eating her. Liana can only sob, her silent pleas for help swallowed by the demon's sadistic pleasure. Liana's world is crumbling. Paralyzed by terror, she can do nothing but tremble as the shadow of death looms over her. To her tormentor, this fear is just part of the game. Vigen, human hunter, the sadistic high demon, revels in his cruelty. He recalls how every human he's encountered begged for their lives, promising anything just to see another dawn. To him, they're nothing more than toys for his 24/7 amusement. The scene of slaughter is his playground. For a beast like Vigen, there is no greater joy than the sound of bones snapping and the scent of blood filling the air. He truly believes he is the undisputed king of this forest. Vigen finds human despair to be the most delicious seasoning. He loves the moment when hope vanishes, replaced by the realization that their pleas are falling on deaf, scaly ears. Poor Liana is just his latest victim in this sick cycle. I can't get enough of it. Vigen's predatory eyes gleam with malice. He doesn't just want to kill. He wants to break them until they beg for death instead of mercy. His thirst for cruelty is bottomless. But the gruesome moment is interrupted. Out of nowhere, a mysterious hooded figure appears among the trees. Ray stands there, looking completely out of place in this scene of carnage. Vigen, still holding Liana, can only offer a confused good afternoon. Liana is stunned. Is this a savior or just another victim? Meanwhile, Vigen's annoyance starts to bubble. Who is this brat interrupting his fun time? His predatory gaze shifts, sizing up the newcomer. Ray, looking remarkably calm, scratches his head and admits he's lost. He seems completely oblivious to the massive lizard man and the crying girl, acting as if he's just asking for directions on a casual stroll. Ray politely asks if Liana can guide him to a nearby village, but Vigen shuts him down immediately. The demon is baffled by this human's lack of fear. What's with this man? He wonders, realizing he didn't even sense Ray's approach. Wait a second. Vigen's sharp nose picks up something strange. Ray's clothes are tattered and absolutely drenched in monster blood. An unbelievable amount of it. This isn't some ordinary traveler. This is someone who has been through hell. Terrified for the stranger, Liana screams at Ray to run. She warns him that Vigen's real objective is her, and that if he doesn't leave now, he'll be killed too. Her selflessness shines even in her darkest hour. Ray's reaction? A simple "I see." His aloofness only irritates Vigen further. The demon decides he can't have any witnesses, especially not someone as suspicious as this hooded boy. It's time to add another body to the pile. A wicked thought crosses Vigen's mind. A simple kill is too boring. He wants to see the despair on Liana's face when her only hope is brutally snuffed out. He starts to formulate a new, even more sadistic game. Vigen's plan is simple. Let the boy think he's escaping, then strike him from behind. He won't kill him instantly. He'll cut off both of Ray's legs and make Liana watch the gruesome aftermath. The demon can barely contain his excitement. He imagines Liana's face, the shock, the horror, the absolute loss of hope. Vigen lives for these expressions. To him, the psychological torment is just as satisfying as the physical violence. Vigen presents Ray with a choice. Try to save the girl and die, or run away and live. He's betting that the boy will choose his own life, further crushing Liana's spirit as she's abandoned by her potential savior. Okay. Ray's answer is chillingly casual. He turns his back and starts walking away, seemingly abandoning Liana without a second thought. Vigan is delighted. This is exactly the pained expression he wanted to see from the girl. Vigan lunges. He doesn't care that Ray is leaving. He was never going to let him go anyway. He wants to savor the moment he catches his prey off guard. Liana can only watch in horror as the monster closes in. "Watch out behind you!" Liana's scream echoes through the forest, but seems too late. Vigan is already upon him, his jaws open and his malice overflowing. The trap has been sprung. With a brutal strike, Vigan carries out his plan. Blood sprays as the demon's attack connects. In an instant, the peaceful walk turns into a nightmare, and Liana's hope is shattered like glass. Vigan's sadistic grin contrasts sharply with Liana's tear-filled eyes. He's drinking in her despair, enjoying every second of her agony. He truly believes he's won this round of his sick game. The forest erupts in a cloud of dust and blood. Liana lets out a soul-piercing scream, unable to bear the sight of the carnage. To her, this is the end. There is no one left to save her. "How cruel!" Liana sobs, covering her mouth in shock. She watched the only person who might have helped her get cut down in an instant. Vigan stands over the body, huffing with pride at his own cruelty. This is it. Vigan is absolutely ecstatic. Liana's broken spirit is the ultimate prize, and he's savoring every second of her agony. In his mind, he's the undisputed king of this forest, and this hooded boy was just another plaything he's easily broken. He's ready to move on to the next phase of his entertainment, unaware that the game has only just begun. Vigan looms over the downed Ray, eager to gloat and see the boy's face twisted in pain. He expects a broken victim begging for mercy, but as the dust settles, the atmosphere shifts into something cold and suffocating. Vigan is about to learn a terrifying lesson. Some things in this world are far, far worse than death, and he's just invited one to play. The tables have turned in an instant. Vigan, the self-proclaimed hunter, becomes the hunted. Before he can even process what's happening, his world literally turns upside down. His head is severed from his body in a clean, effortless stroke, but something even more terrifying is about to occur. Ray whispers a single word: heal. Vigan gasps, his mind reeling in pure confusion. One moment his head was flying through the air, and the next, it's back on his shoulders as if nothing happened. Ray looks at him with a chillingly calm smile, asking, "How is it? It didn't hurt at all, right?" The demon is left speechless, paralyzed by the sheer impossibility of what just occurred. Vigan stares at Ray's legs, which are perfectly attached and uninjured. He certainly cut them off just moments ago. Panic starts to set in as he realizes his senses are failing him. "Why are your legs attached to you? What did you do to me?" The demon screams, his confidence completely shattered by the boy standing before him. Ray's explanation is even more horrifying. He admits with a cheerful smile that he used his knife to cut off Vigan's head and then immediately reattached it using his heal magic. He's not just a healer. He's a monster who treats life and death like a child playing with blocks. For the first time, Vigan feels the cold grip of true terror. Impossible. Vigan's mind struggles to comprehend. He's never heard of healing magic so powerful it can undo a decapitation in the blink of an eye. He desperately tries to convince himself it's all an illusion, some kind of trick. But the fear in his gut tells him a different story. This heal is something far beyond the realm of common sense. Reality finally sinks in. Vigan realizes he's in the presence of something truly dangerous, a power he can't even begin to understand. The hunter's instinct, which had served him so well, is now screaming at him to flee. "I need to run, or he will kill me," he thinks, his eyes wide with the realization that he is outmatched. But it's too late. When Vigan tries to bolt, his body refuses to obey. His legs feel like lead, pinned to the spot by an overwhelming pressure. Ray stands there, watching him with an expressionless gaze, asking what's wrong. As the demon's instincts continue to scream a warning he can no longer heed. Viggen tries to reclaim his pride as a demon. He remembers the creed. The weak are unnecessary, and only the strong survive. He fears that if he runs now, he'll only be hunted down by the other 4 deadly demons. He forces himself to face the threat, trying to convince himself that he is still the predator in this forest. "Don't you mess with me," Viggen roars, lunging at Ray with all his might. He tries to reassert his dominance, shouting his name like a title that should command fear. "I am the great human hunter, Viggen. There's no way a kid like you can kill me." It's a desperate attempt to drown out the terror growing in his heart. Viggen continues his boastful rampage, listing his past atrocities. He screams about the 3 human villages he's destroyed, trying to bolster his own fading courage by reminding himself of his past victories. He swings his massive weapon, hoping to finally end this nightmare. "I've killed several holy knights of the capital. I'm a hired demon, Viggen." Each word is punctuated by a heavy strike, but Ray just watches with those piercing eyes. The demon's pride is all he has left, and he's using it like a shield against the inevitable realization that his prey has become his master. In a flash, the counterattack comes. Viggen's arm is severed as cleanly as his head was before. Blood sprays across the clearing as the demon's weapon clatters to the ground. Ray stands over him, cold and detached, asking a simple, devastating question. "Do you understand now?" The lesson is finally learned. Viggen's arm is gone, and with it, his last shred of arrogance. Ray's words are absolute. "You are weaker than me." The demon's eyes, once full of sadistic glee, are now clouded with the absolute certainty of his own inferiority. The hierarchy of the forest has been permanently rewritten. Ray stares down the broken demon. His presence alone is suffocating, a weight that Viggen can no longer bear. The once feared human hunter is now nothing more than a trembling animal, forced to acknowledge that he has encountered a being far beyond his own understanding of strength. Viggen doesn't wait for a second invitation. He turns and bolts into the forest, his tail tucked between his legs. The hunter is now the fleeing prey, desperate to put as much distance as possible between himself and the terrifying boy in the white hood. All his pride and bloodlust have been replaced by a single, desperate desire to survive. Ray watches him go with a detached calm. "I'll forgive you just this once," he calls out, his voice carrying through the trees. "There won't be a second time." It's not an act of mercy, but a cold warning. Viggen's life was spared only because Ray chose to let him live, a final humiliation for the demon who prided himself on hunting the weak. "I thought I was the strong and the one who hunted the weak, but I was wrong." Viggen's thoughts are a frantic scramble of regret and terror. He gasps for air, his lungs burning as he runs. Ray's parting threat echoes in his mind. "Next time, if I see your face ever again." The predator has been thoroughly broken. "I'll kill you." Ray finishes his threat with a simple finger to his lips, a gesture of quiet finality. In his own mind, Viggen realizes the bitter truth. It was me who is the weak. I'm the one who is being hunted. The forest remains silent, the only sound the fading footsteps of a demon running for its life. With the threat gone, the atmosphere shifts instantly. Ray turns back to Liana, his terrifying aura replaced by his usual calm, almost bored expression. "Are you okay?" he asks, crouching down beside her. Behind them, the bodies of the fallen wolves serve as a grim reminder of the slaughter that Ray just ended. Liana looks up at her savior, her eyes still red from crying. She's overwhelmed by everything that just happened. "Thank you very much for saving my life," she stammers, bowing her head. "My name is Liana. I'm a slave." She reveals her humble status, her voice trembling as she shares her identity with the boy who performed miracles. Liana can't help herself. She has to check. She reaches out and grabs Ray's leg, her hands shaking. "It's really healed. Your legs were cut off, right?" She's still struggling to reconcile what she saw with the reality in front of her. Ray, looking a bit flustered, tries to brush it off. "Anyway, forget about that," he says, jolting back a bit. I'm a white mage after all. A healer, Ray explains with a simple, genuine smile. Liana is floored. To her, healers are people who mend small wounds or cure illnesses, not people who reattach severed limbs in an instant. She wonders how such an amazing white mage could possibly exist without the world knowing his name. Inside his own head, Ray starts to realize that maybe his version of normal is a bit skewed. Now that I think about it, my heal isn't normal, he admits to himself. He's been training and using it every single day for 5 long years in the depths of the maze. So he performed the feat without a second thought. Crap, he thinks, realizing he might have stood out a bit too much. Liana-san, what are you going to do now? Ray quickly shifts the conversation, wanting to move away from the mystery of his powers. Liana's gaze falls to the ground, her voice a hollow whisper. Well, I'm not sure, she admits. For a girl whose life has been defined by slavery and who just lost her only protectors, the path ahead is as dark and uncertain as the forest itself. As they sit together in the heavy silence of the clearing, the sight of Liana's trembling frame begins to stir something deep within Ray. The storm of violence has passed, but the fragile sense of safety she feels in his presence is overshadowed by her utter helplessness. Looking at her, Ray feels the stirrings of a memory he hasn't touched in a long time, one that links her plight to his own dark past. Looking at Liana's fragile state, Ray's mind drifts back to his own painful childhood. He remembers the days when he was the weak one, unable to do anything but tremble while another girl, Ninamoa, stood in front of him, taking the blows and offering him the support he desperately needed. To him, Liana is a mirror of his own past helplessness. I can't just leave a 12-year-old girl without a destination by herself. Ray's resolve is firm. He knows all too well what happens to the weak in this world. Liana looks up at him, confused by his sudden serious tone, wondering why this powerful stranger would care so much about her fate. Ray thinks of Ninamoa, the girl who was his world. If Ninamoa were here, I'm sure she would. He starts to think, her kind smile etched into his memory. Everything he does now is driven by the desire to find her and be the kind of person she believed he could be. The memory of her is his guiding star. Ray turns to Liana with a gentle offer. You see, I'm actually looking for a destination as well. I'm thinking of going to the capital. He reaches out his hand, a simple gesture of partnership. So if you don't mind, he's offering her more than just a ride. He's offering her a future. How about coming with me to the capital? Ray continues, his voice warm and inviting. There should be a lot of things there. You might be able to find something good. Liana is stunned. No one has ever spoken to her like this, offering her a choice and a chance at a new life. The name, Ninamoa, weighs heavy on Ray's heart as he makes this promise. I want to become like you, who helps others in need. Ray says, a bright smile on his face. I might be able to achieve it now. He's not just talking about physical strength, but the strength of character to protect those who can't protect themselves. Liana looks at him with newfound admiration, her fear finally starting to dissolve. How about it? He asks, waiting for her answer. While Ray and Liana find a moment of peace, the scene shifts to a far darker place. In a cold, sterile laboratory, a sinister hooded figure speaks to an unseen observer. It'll take a while before I see you again. The room is filled with strange machinery and the stench of decay, a stark contrast to the hope blooming in the forest. The hooded villain stands over a grotesque, melting form, the remains of a failed experiment. In the background, Ninamoa watches in absolute horror, her hands clasped together in a desperate prayer. She's being kept in this nightmare, a witness to the atrocities being committed in the name of science. Eek, she gasps as the monster before her twitches. I can't seem to get them stable with this method. Another failure. The villain sighs, his voice devoid of any empathy. To him, the suffering of his victims is just a data point. I still have a lot of materials. Well, whatever. He treats human lives like disposable tools, his cold logic as sharp as the needles in his lab. He turns his gaze toward his next subject. The villain's eyes land on Ninamoa. She looks pale and exhausted, a slave collar with the designation S-291 locked around her neck. "It's your turn next, Nenemoa," he says, his words a death sentence. Nenemoa can only tremble, her fate now hanging by a thread as she faces the same horror that claimed the others. The race is on. Will Ray reach her before it's too late?